I'm standing beside the Pomahaka River in South Otago. I've come to this region to meet a community of farmers working hard to improve the water quality within their catchment. I follow them through winter to see what they're doing and why. Our story starts high in the foothills of the Old Man Range in West Otago and travels downhill for over 80 kilometres through some of New Zealand's finest farmland. The people that live here care deeply for their river and have taken it upon themselves to work together and improve the quality of water it contains.
To Craig, Janet and all members of the Pomahaka Watercare Group, congratulations on the great work being done to protect and restore water quality in the Pomahaka Catchment.
They've found this environmental stance in no way conflicts with their farming practices. They've found instead that through careful farm management it's possible to be both profitable and sustainable. Pollution is a big problem for farmers, but it's a problem that can be managed, and you will be hard pressed to find a community that's doing a better job of cleaning up their river than this one in the Pomahaka Catchment. We begin on a high country sheep and beef farm. In winter, this can be a harsh and unforgiving landscape. Farming up here is less intensive than further downstream, but it can still have an impact on water quality. Although the dairy industry gets most of the flack, poorly managed sheep and beef farms also contribute to poor water quality. Peter Adam runs Walden Station. In this winter, he's been busy putting in a new water scheme. It's an expensive and time-consuming venture, but he believes it will be worth the effort. For him, this process began a while back. It was a measure identified at a land environment planning workshop run by Beef and Lamb New Zealand. These workshops are designed to help farmers identify environmental risks associated with their properties.
I've got some wet areas I've identified, parts of creeks and stuff that we're going to fence off, and also continuing the water scheme at the run, which will be in September, and that'll hopefully take the pressure off the creeks.
The water scheme is all part of his farm's land environment plan. The water scheme has a number of benefits, both from a business perspective and an environmental one.
It makes management a lot easier and you can work around it, whereas if you're only based on having creeks and they dry up, well, it limits your options really.
Keeping stock out of and away from streams and rivers is an important factor in improving and maintaining the water quality of the Pomahaka River. So hopefully, with fresh water available on the tops, Peter's stock will have less need to visit the rivers and streams. But how will Peter know if the work he's done has helped improve water quality? Many farmers in the catchment have allowed water scientists unrestricted access to their waterways to measure the levels of turbidity, nitrogen, nitrate, phosphorus and E. coli. But the initial results from water quality samples around the catchment were disheartening.
The Trust were obviously very concerned, but in some ways they were very pleased that they had the results, because up until then they didn't know for certain what was happening within their catchment. The Trust, by setting out a number of sites, was able to become more familiar with the water quality in the catchment, and that then the farmers in those areas could have a better understanding of what's happening on their farms.
Armed with this better understanding, farmers could now see the effect of their management practices on water quality. 35 kilometres further downstream, I met Bryce McKenzie. He owns a dairy farm on the banks of the Pomahaka River. He winters some of his stock on farm out in the open. The risk here is that during the winter months, stock can have a severe effect on the topsoil. Without careful management, they can seriously add to the sediment, phosphorus, nitrate and E. coli that runs into a river. To minimise the stock's environmental impact, Bryce keeps them off the lower slopes until later in the season when the soils are drier. This line of crop, if well managed, will be the last of the winter feed offered to the stock late in the season when the ground starts to dry out. This way, the crop provides a barrier to stop the flow of sediment during the wettest winter months. However, this crop management technique is not the only measure Bryce uses. He's also developing wetlands. Yep, so how long you had the wetland, Bryce?
This one's been in about 2 years.
Do you have any idea of the size of the catchment that flows into this?
Probably close to 120 hectares.
Was there much work involved in the fencing off of the wetland?
No, not really. I mean, it's reasonably simple when you're dairy fencing because it's only 2 wires. 10 years ago we'd have probably put a digger up the middle of it and drained it all, and now we see more value in it as being just left in its natural state. There's not a lot of point in trying to spend money on them all the time and keep them dry. It's probably better just to let them to revert back to what they were and just make them wetland. You get the bonus of the goodness that can come out of it through better water quality.
For Bryce, wetlands offer a great solution for stopping nitrogen leaching and the runoff of other contaminants, especially phosphorus. He now has 3 wetlands on his property. It's an effective technique that can be relatively easy to put in place. Like the other farmers, he's keen to ensure that his techniques are having a real effect on the quality of water in the catchment.
It is unusual for farmers to allow a scientist to have a free range across their farms. The farmers in Pomahaka Catchment have given me that blessing to just drive around their farms, take samples from where I see fit, and then provide them with information.
Not far from Bryce, we find another dairy farm, belonging to Aniek and Mark Van Baal. They're also firm advocates of sustainable farming.
I'm a contractor for Dairy NZ and Landcare Trust. They've asked me to come along today and do a sustainable milk plan.
The Sustainable Milk Plan is a tool that helps farmers identify aspects of their farm management that can be improved. It's not just a tool for improving the environment, it's about running a better business and helping the farmers increase their profits while at the same time reducing the farm's impact on the environment. Mark and Aniek have chosen to construct a wintering shed in which their stock shelter over the cold and wet winter months. Effluent is contained beneath the floor and pumped into an effluent pond at the rear, where it is kept until environmental conditions allow for its controlled spreading on the fields. While the initial outlay for the shed was high, there are some advantages to this system. The farm now has complete control over how much effluent is applied to the land and where. Without a need to have stock on crop through winter, he minimises sediment loss, nitrogen leaching, and phosphorus and E. coli runoff into surrounding streams. The farm is working well, but the Sustainable Milk Plan Advisor has noticed an area that can be improved. At the moment, the shed's rainwater runoff also runs into the effluent pond.
If you get a metre of rainfall a year and you're not diverting, that's 300 cubic metres of water that you're paying to store and paying someone to pump out, so you've got electricity, but you're paying someone to move that irrigator too.
Like many farmers, Mark and Aniek are keen to ensure that their farming practices do not have a detrimental effect on the surrounding streams. They've also opened up their farm to the ongoing water monitoring program.
The Water Care Group meeting together has resulted in the farmers understanding their nutrients and how their farming can impact on those nutrients. At the last meeting, they were very enthusiastic about what they had seen over the last couple of years. A number of them have approached me to come and monitor their whole farm, and the catchment group were very positive towards continuing with the monitoring programs and actually increasing them so they could learn more.
So what do we learn from the Pomahaka story? Individual farmers must take responsibility for the quality of water leaving their property. But individual farmers can only do so much. If we want to make a real difference and improve the health of their waterways, it takes a community effort. A community like we've found here in the Pomahaka Catchment.